Hello ladies and gents, boys and girls, people of all ages, sexualities and identities, and welcome back to another Sarah Jane Adventures review. And today's Sarah Jane Adventures review is Goodbye, Sarah Jane. Yes, this will be our last review for Series 4 before we get into the final 3 reviews for Series 5. But Goodbye is where, in my opinion, the Sarah Jane Adventures really got interesting. Elizabeth Sladen takes a beautiful back burner for this entire story, but in a really positive and a really kind of respectful way to people out there suffering from cancer and the like. Elizabeth Sladen finds herself not feeling great in this story. And essentially the whole story revolves around her and this woman. And this woman is young and beautiful and all the things that Sarah believes that she once was. However, what Sarah doesn't realise in this story is the fact that this woman is actually eating at her. There's a scene in the beginning of this story in which Sarah, Clyde and Rani get into a kind of scrap with a bunch of robots. However, what they don't realise is these robots aren't actually real, but we'll get into that later. But essentially, the story starts off with them doing their usual round when all of a sudden, Sarah gets a little bit reckless and almost puts the kids in danger. Luckily for her, however, this woman comes along with the technology to stop the robots and pretty much puts on this big masquerade that she's the new neighbour in town and she's really nice and she's going to be like helping out for a while. Just until Sarah gets back on her feet. However, it turns out that what has really happened is one day when Sarah invites her over, she begins to feast at her a lot. And this really drains away at Sarah. And then she basically just locks Sarah down in a dungeon for the rest of the episode until everything goes to plan. She hopes to pretty much conquer the planet after breaking out of her little prison cell. However, Clyde Langer gets a little bit too much in the way for her liking. And so, to get back at him, she locks him inside of her prison and essentially has him suspended over the earth. Rani suspects that something's up with Clyde and something's up with Sarah Jane. She can't find her anywhere. And this woman begins to try and feast at Rani as well. However, Rani's not buying it. And on top of it, Rani decides to bring Luke in, especially after this new neighbour suggests that Sarah has gone to live with Luke for a while until she feels a lot better. Eventually, they discover that Sarah has been locked down in a dungeon and has been slowly withering away at herself as a giant goop of a brain seems to eat away at Sarah. And they find that Clyde is still locked in space. Eventually, they manage to break the spell and destroy the brain, and then send this prisoner back up into a spaceship in which she is stuck playing video games for the rest of her existence. So, what were my thoughts on Goodbye, Sarah Jane? I really like this story, not only because it's nice to see Elizabeth Sladen get a little bit of time to herself in this story and have a little bit of a break from running around, at least for a little while, but also because I feel like this really does justice this idea in which Sarah, at the end of the episode, regardless of what happened and what was happening to her, has to accept this fact that she's no longer young. She's no longer the age she was when she met the Doctor. She's no longer the age she was when she met Maria Jackson. Sarah has slowly but surely been getting older and older and older. And as time has gone on, her body knows this, she knows this, and time is catching up on her eventually. It's time for Sarah Jane Smith to finally take a back burner and relax. It's time for her to stop running around like a maniac and actually let other people do that for her. After all, she has the Bannerman Road gang, so she doesn't need to do everything. And I feel like the way that they respectfully treat that in this story, and especially when they get Sarah back to the house after all the ordeal that she's been through, is kind of a way to reinforce to the audience, look, you've got Luke, you've got Clyde, you've got Rani, and they're really here right now for Sarah. They'll be here until Sarah is gone, and that's the important thing. Sarah has grown such respect, and they've grown such respect for her in advance, that no matter what happens, rain or snow or slate, they'll be there. And for that reason, I give this story a solid 10 out of 10. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next Sarah Jane Adventures review. Until then, goodbye, stay beautiful, you beautiful people.